street art. You guys love it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah? It is interesting.
I love whenever you ask us a question, all you get is silence. He's a great radio host.
The scissor tool. I love the scissor tool. I cut out those 45 seconds like you guys are like anxious to answer the question. Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna jump to this, and I'm gonna say that I'm kind of late to the whole street art thing.
Okay.
I became hip to it through
Hip?
Yeah.
It's still used by the kids.
Yeah. Edit that out.
No.
The 40-year-old kids?
Jeez.
Hey, let the
I'm
man
done.
use the word hip.
I'm
I like.
done.
Hey,
Forget
no. It's okay.
I lost my train of thought. I'm done.
I like hip.
Are you all gay and full of Yuletide?
No, gay is way, way older than hip.
I do like to tell people I'm feeling very gay today.
I don't doubt that.
And this is why he attracts the type of Facebook friends he has.
I do get lots of penis pics. So you were saying you were introduced to street art at a later...
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously seen graffiti and whatnot. I assume that graffiti falls into the realm of street art.
I think it's the
I'm not
foundation.
talking about. I'm not talking about like tags and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about real. I'm also talking about like art.
Yeah.
Something with a message with a background.
Even if it doesn't have a message, something that's aesthetically pleasing, which is what art is.
Mm.
So, well, street art as something that is searchable in Google in quotation marks. I guess I kind of became aware of when you started using it as a hashtag to describe the art that I do.
Mm.
And then that led me to Banksy, even though I knew who Banksy was and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Learning that it's just another genre of art. I mean, art is a huge, just wide-ranging category that anything creative is art.
So what's the difference between tagging, street art, and stencil graffiti?
Tagging is meant to send a message to another gang. If it's done by a gang member,
What if it's not?
then I don't know.
What if there's this stencil graffiti that's in the South Loop area. A picture of, I believe, Winnie the Pooh, and it says "Don't be a poo" or something like that. it's hilarious.
It's not very creative.
Oh, it's very creative. Somebody took the time.
Don't be a poo.
Is it one color or two? Or is there several colors?
I believe it's one color.
Okay, so it's
I'm trying
one,
to pull up the picture right now.
It's one
actually.
stencil. Okay.
Right.
Don't be a poo.
Right.
P-O-O-H?
Of course.
Well, you know.
I'm working on the picture. Hold on a second.
Going north on Cicero,
Yeah.
a little bit south of Forest Glen when you're passing under 94,
Mm-hmm.
there was the street art of the guy with the surveillance camera for a head.
Yeah.
I kept meaning to get a picture of that.
Yeah.
Most of those are washed away.
They get painted over pretty quickly.
They were pretty much left alone because that area, nobody really gave a fuck.
I don't think it was for that area, not until the aldermen started doing the bridges for Paschke. For Ed Paschke.
Oh, even that area, I don't think that even matters.
What do you mean?
Because that's not even, is that still Chicago there?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Okay.
Chicago all the way up until...
Devon.
Is it Devon? It's
That would be Lincolnwood.
east of
Yeah, that would be Devon.
east of Edens.
Yeah, so they just pretty much left those alone.
Yeah.
The but that's all the Paschke art and all those other ones are like the walls of the underpass.
Yeah.
These were the supporting.
No, what I was mentioning by that is the stencils you saw started getting painted over when they started drawing more attention to what they were doing with the Paschke Center, the Paschke Arts Center, because
Okay.
they started bringing people in, and they didn't want to take away from the Paschke murals that were put under the viaducts and the ones that they have planned for the future by having other artists have their art there who aren't as important as Ed was.
Mm. Are they planning more in that area, do you know?
Yes.
Oh.
They're planning a lot more. Arena and his wife really want to, or John Arena's the alderman of that ward.
Uh-huh.
He really is a strong lover of art, and art being not bad. That's 3 colors. That's 3 different stencils. Art being, visual art, music, and dance, which is good to have somebody who's in the city that's into it, that is trying to beautify an area with it.
Yeah.
But they really don't want to have graffiti as.
What's the difference? It's really all the same.
I think the difference is who says yes or no to it.
Okay.
In this situation, that's what it's all about, is who's agreeing that we can say that Don't Be a Pooh is art, because is it art? What do you guys think?
I like that, but I don't know why I like it or what it's
But
supposed to be.
That's another one that pops
Well, that's
up
another
all over the
thing
place.
is
Like construction barricades.
that,
So what's? I mean, that would be stencil graffiti.
well, that's something for
No.
the ages. What is art?
What's the classification for? What are guys like John Arena, who probably have a few nice oil paintings sitting
So
as-
where does the money factor in, or is that
I think that's where it all boils down
where
to.
it all is?
Probably a really good example was Jean-Paul Basquiat.
Basquiat.
Yeah.
Ah, jeez.
Where he was just a horrible fucking painter.
Thank you.
You've heard other people say it before, haven't you?
No.
Oh God, his shit was.
Everybody thinks Basquiat is so great.
That's because he sucked Warhol off and had anal sex with Bowie. That's the only reason. His art sucked. His size sucked. His scale sucked. His color sucked. His subject matter sucked. He's a horrible.
But at least he did it. I mean, at least he did something, I guess.
What? He got hooked up with a bunch of rich people that wanted.
But look at Andy Warhol. What did he do?
first stencil artist.
So in the context of his time,
Okay, so if we had to compare Basquiat to Warhol, okay.
why do we have to compare anybody to anybody?
Because you asked what he did as in a comparison question.
He just did something different.
Yeah, he made films. He observed, life and
Oh, see, I wasn't even thinking about all that.
and sexuality as
Right.
as a full spectrum of art.
Right.
Basquiat got high, fucked a couple white
Art
women.
should be all
and
about
that was it.
change. Art should be a constantly evolving thing.
Art should be about whatever makes the individual happy making it.
Right.
Do we need to have it? To be-
I don't even think that, quote unquote, the masters would care about their art being displayed.
They were just happy not to be digging fucking ditches,
Yeah,
or blacksmiths, or breathing in, glass fumes.
exactly. It's so that was the
It was the escape.
that was the equivalent of not working an office job or working at Starbucks or something.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. It was good, easy work. It was,
right.
If you were good at it.
If you were talented at it, and if you had nothing but
But yet they had so many fucking assistants.
all kinds of assistance, all the financial resources of the church or the Medicis throwing money at you,
Mm-hmm.
then of course you're going to get good.
Right.
When that's all you have to do for 22 hours a day.
So you asked earlier, what's the difference between stencil art, graffiti, and tagging?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So a stencil artist is trying to create a complete message that you can look at in one aspect and say, boom, there it is, I'm done.
But isn't tagging about sending a message as well?
I didn't say sending a message. I said a complete message. It's done. Tagging is an esoteric way of communicating with other people in the same stylized writing style. It's more of a study of street linguistics. Because usually words are misspelled, letters are backwards, Words are backwards.
Or they're not even using words at all.
They're not using
They're
words
using
that are
symbols.
Well, that's where gang graffiti and tagging separate. They fork off from each other.
Right, because you have tagging art, and then you have
Gang
graffiti
right.
or tagging graffiti.
So a lot of police officers refer to gang graffiti as tagging, and it's not. Gang graffiti is based around occult symbols that have been passed down through the elders in the gang to tell a message, as once you would have carved your initials into a tree to tell which way to go to find clean water, or this town is good for prostitutes. The same thing is being done through crosses and pitchforks
And
it's 6-pointed stars, 5-pointed stars, broken in half, initials, letters, those types, old English letters, which old English letters you use, which ones you don't use, where you add accent to those. All that has to do with the world of gangs.
Which leads to the whole thing of a lot of people in more affluent neighborhoods, street art or stencils or stencil tagging or whatever you want to call it. All of a sudden it's, oh, look, this gang's in the neighborhood, and then call the local police department and look, they're tagging our garages or they're tagging our streets. Or
they lump it all under
and
graffiti.
Exactly.
So a good stencil artist would never be lumped into graffiti. Somebody would be able to tell just by looking at the piece that somebody took some time to do that piece of art. Where often somebody's tagging, and it's just a tag, which is just the writer's street name, his crew affiliation, and then whoever he was writing with at that time, unless he's running solo. Okay.
Right.
So most of the time you get two taggers that run together, and you'll see them up together all the time with their crew. And Chicago's notorious. Chicago has lots of crews. But to think that somebody from an affluent neighborhood would see a stencil piece that was done and then feel that there was gangs moving in really speaks to the ignorance of...
that's kind of my point.
Yeah, people who don't view art. People who go to the art institute.
Well, that's art.
Exactly. That's art.
Right.
You know,
art is something that is made by people who are long dead or people who are making millions of dollars a year.
Mm-hmm.
Art is not something that, the kid in the apartment below us is doing.
But see, now I'm curious, these same people, if they were to see yarn bombing, what would they say to that?
Oh, is that when people crochet?
Trees and poles and, yeah.
I guess that's a real hard one for people to figure out, though. Because when you see that somebody has spent some time crocheting a bike rack, it's like, how in the fuck did they do that? Because that was the first time I saw a bike rack done like 10 years ago, right? I actually had to go and really look at it and touch it and figure out like that this wasn't something they did at home and came by and just kind of glued it on, that they actually made this thing and did it. So how would somebody from the, I'm not going to say suburbs, but somebody from an affluent area look at yarn? I guess it would all depend on the color and how fresh it was. Because if it's weathered, it just looks like trash.
Right.
Because yarn deteriorates quickly.
Anything out of place.
But you see, you've seen this air quote tagging here, and some of it is, I don't want to say amazing work, but in the 30 seconds they have, a minute they have, whatever it may be, pretty decent work.
It shows that somebody's practiced creating their own font.
Now, I'm not referring to names here. Names or words. I'm referring to more symbols and or drawings.
Well, that's what tagging is. Tagging is the name of the artist. That's his tag. That's his way of saying I was on this side of the city, or I walked down this street and I hit that mailbox, that wall, this and that. They tag that. When somebody sits down and starts to draw something that is then representing some sort of object or shape or character, that is called a piecing. That they've taken time to create a piece, which is short for a piece of art. I really know way too much about this.
You could also way off track. My question, though, was not answered.
Okay. So ask the question again.
I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
I think we're mixing our terminology here.
I think a lot of people are.
About tagging and graffiti and street art.
Well,
I think all these things are getting combined under one umbrella.
but look what
And they're different things.
Look what Google Art Project is trying to do with their street art.
Do tell.
They have a website, and it's pretty much Google Art Project, streetart.withgoogle.com. And it's it's part of the Google Cultural Institute, and it's street art from all around the world with stories behind it. Pull it up on one of your devices.
That's okay. I'll do it later.
We'll have a link to Google Street Art in the notes.
But if you look at some of these pieces,
But that's okay. So, this what you're looking at there in street art. That's what people who are into actual piecing and graffiti, which is words that have augmented shapes and arrows and pointed and have pretty colors and stuff. Street art is done with permission. People are paid to go paint on the street. Street art is. Now, illegal street art, which is stencils that are done in the middle of the night in multicolors that are creating political statements. And we mentioned Banksy before. The doctor sent us the link today with the plastic Jesus guy. You got Space Invader, who caused a major uproar in 2002 after the 9/11 attacks by putting his little space invaders all over the city, and people thought they were bombs.
I'm going to say I didn't know about him until I watched the documentary.
Okay. Then you have all of the French graffiti artists, which was from Chicago to Paris, was our sister city, not only because of Mayor Daley, but because of the graffiti artists from Chicago. Design, Unique, Take Two, Mike, Teasel, all these names that I'm dropping here are all famous Chicago graffiti writers who then became friends with people in Paris, which would they go back and forth and they would do pieces around the city.
Which is awesome. There should be art all over the fucking place. Any place there's blank walls, there should be something on them.
Great point.
And it doesn't matter if it's there for a day and then it gets painted over and then somebody else draws something on it and then...
So there's down at Milwaukee and Halstead. Okay, Milwaukee and Halstead, where they come together, there's the train tracks there that run east to west. And there was always, for years, there have been mural projects done within the walls of the train tracks. From the 60s all the way up until like the 80s, I think, when the city ran out of funding. And it was black artists, Hispanic artists, Puerto Rican artists who would create these murals that were depictions of political statements of the time, very much in the vein of Rivera, how he was constantly creating these political statements through his work. Now, once those things became a little bit too close to home with Daley, Byrne, Washington, all these other mayors, that was all ceased. I had the honor of spending time with Ernesto Rojas, who was one of the young painters in the 70s who worked on these projects. Him and Bernard Williams, who was another famous Chicago painter. These two guys both painted these walls there. And when they told me the stories about the difference in the climate of mural painting at that time, and then when we talked about mural painting in the 90s, when it was just really more graffiti, as everybody would call it then, and just how the climate has changed for the political statements that were being made. In the 90s, we had no political statements to make.
Right.
I mean, everything was great. We had money, food, places to live, warm shelter. The 70s, it was racism and prejudice and wars and all this other shit was going on. These guys had something to paint about. And I think they think the uprise in street art in the last 10 or 15 years is that we have finally reached a place again where we've got something to fight against, whether it's our own government or tyranny from other governments, or just us being aware that the world is not this beautiful, warm place that it was for us when we were kids in the 90s.
Plus, well, it can be shared at a moment's notice as well.
Well, that's our climate today.
That's a different thing is how connected we are.
And now we have so many tools to create
We went
art.
from the 90s where we were completely disconnected to now where everything is happening. Everything is our own backyard now.
Whatever happened to etching?
You mean like etching on like scratchboard?
Etching on
Come on up to
on
my
windows.
apartment. I'll show you my etchings.
No, on windows on CTA buses and trains and on. using
Oh,
the-
Oh, you still got guys. You still got Ian, who ran All City IAN. Ian was #1 for etching on CTA buses. Then you have Scarce SE. He was #2, and you have Agent was #3.
Okay, so Chicago has had the ban on spray paint for 25 years now.
Yeah,
I can't go into Michael's without asking somebody to unlock the spray paints for me.
And that's and that's acrylic paint.
Right, and you can't even do that in the Chicago Michaels.
They don't have spray paint.
Right.
They have spray paint at Utrecht downtown, but it's still
Oh.
it's primary colors, and you have to have a note or something.
Ah, true. Oh, yeah,
So-
when I was working by Harlem and Belmont and I needed some spray paint and we had to go to the True Value down the street.
Right.
We had to
Right. So
they were keeping it all behind the counter.
in 2014, Streets and Sand removed over 60,000 pieces of street art. Graffiti.
Yeah.
I mean, the city of Chicago has graffiti blaster trucks.
Yeah.
We've all seen them.
Oh yeah.
Street art blasters?
$5 million a year they spend on this.
Yeah. And I'm all in favor of it. I really am.
So this is some of the stuff they've removed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy with them removing that.
Why?
Because
you rather have vacant lots and vacant buildings and all this versus something colorful like
yeah,
that?
because that's in vacant places where nobody sees it.
So why are we spending $300-$400 to get rid of this there? If nobody sees it, what's it matter?
Because the kids see it. The artists see it. The artists tell the other artists, this is where I'm working. This is where I'm painting this week. Go see it. And all the artists know where to go. It's only once the man finds out and goes and makes the wall white again, they just go back the next month and they start painting it again. They whitewash it for them. Let's start over. Street art is not about longevity. It's not about staying around for eons and eternity. If we want that, we're going to put it on canvas and you're going to hang it on your wall in your house. It's going to be in a museum. We're going
But even that, who decided that art has to be about longevity?
Well, that's what he's asking here. Why is it okay for the
Look at the Buddhists and their Sandman dolls.
He's asking a question here. Why is it okay for the city to remove art? And
No.
the city, it's okay from the artist's standpoint.
I'm not even asking that. I'm saying why the hell are we wasting money on it and resources on it? And Rahm Emanuel just jacked it up from $750 to a $1,500 fine for it. And it's on a Red X building.
What's Red X?
Red X is, you'll see
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
roughly
what does a
a
red X mean?
20-inch by 18-inch metal placard on a building with the Red X through it. That is a building deemed by the city that is unsafe. So if it is on fire, police or fire will not go into that building.
let it burn.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's an abandoned building. So somebody spray paints or stencils or whatever we want to call this on it. They don't give a damn about the building. It's already a Red X building. It's already just an eyesore. Let's just say. But we're gonna send 3 City of Chicago employees and a truck.
There's a scenario here, though. Okay, so the scenario is this: is on one side of the building where nobody really sees, you might have somebody who put hours of work into creating something beautiful, hours of work into that. You know, whether it be stencils or whether it be Oh man, where they make the big stickers and they put it on with the glue on the side of the building. I can't remember the guy's name who does it all over the city now, but he does little monsters and their green eyes and their big eyes and they're on boats and they're blowing bubbles and shit. Okay. And then on the other side of the building, you'll have the vice lords or the gangster disciples who decided to write on the front. Well, the guys come to clean the front and they're like, oh, there's shit on the other side too. I'll clean that. And by cleaning that, you have people like people then tell NPR, hey, you know, they took down this beautiful art, but everybody forgets to mention that the other side was all fucking infested with gang writing. So when you have these two forms coming together and you want to appreciate one, but you can't appreciate the other because of the story being told, I guess you really need to tell the whole story on why both sides of the art exist.
But
So 290 in Harlem.
Okay.
Right on the Eisenhower, south side of the Eisenhower, south side of, you have the blue line,
Yeah, it's Farrakhan.
and
Yeah,
and
those are all permission walls.
then
Farrakhan gave those guys permission to paint there for
you're
years.
you're talking west side. I'm talking east side.
Okay. Oh, Park side.
Oak Park side,
Yeah.
past the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Probably 40% gang graffiti.
Yeah.
Removed in the morning, back up in the afternoon.
Of course.
Day after day after day, Oak Park is spending tens of thousands of dollars a year removing damn shit.
Right. Because Oak Park isn't as forward as they believe they are. They're wide lawns and narrow
they're
minds.
NIMBYs.
No, wide lawns and narrow minds. That's Oak Park. Okay. So they're going to keep doing that instead of saying to the Oak Park artists who are there, which are in fucking abundance, hey, we got this wall, we got this problem, go paint it. We're tired of painting it white. Here's a couple
Were we talking
thousand.
about the same one?
No, that's
Okay.
I can't remember his name. Oh fuck, I'm forgetting all these guys' names.
Hebrew Brantley.
So, I mean, how hard would it be for a city or a small organization to get together? Just look at what they did at Irving Park and 2 blocks east of Cicero. The crossways between Portage Park and
Right.
Six Corners Shopping. That's been redone 3 times now just because of nature. Not because of other people writing on, just nature has deteriorated and they've allowed the people to come paint it. Look at the viaducts down at the expressway on Irving Park. Look at the one that shows progress, industrial progress.
The Firefighters Memorial
In Logan Square. That, in my opinion, that Firefighters Memorial should have been retouched every year. And it sat and deteriorated for almost 19 years before somebody came
Yes.
back through and retouched it.
Yes.
And it wasn't until Chicago graffiti artists said, hey, we respect our firemen. We want to have this retouched and redo it. We're not going to use spray cans. We'll use airbrushes to do it. And it's shit like... So stencils, though, you know, it's such a new form. It allows the guy who doesn't know how to piece or draw to become an artist. Because a stencil can be printed out on a plotter printer at Kinko's. You cut out the right colored sections, you cut out the other right colored sections, and you put the two of them together, and you've got a beautiful stencil.
They sell a stencil kit at Michael's.
Yeah, I know.
Get your 40% off coupon.
I saw that they sell homemade stencils, and you know what? You put enough of those together, you could create something cool.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely.
I mean, is it good for the kids to see?
yes.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
I gotta tell you, I love saying "Don't be a poo."
Can I
drive downtown and I see it.
jump in here?
please jump in.
All right. So there's a difference between tagging and actual gang graffiti.
Big difference.
So gang graffiti is sending a message from one gang to another.
Yes.
And if it gets whitewashed over, if it gets graffiti blasted, that shit's going to come back
Yes.
because it's quote unquote serious and it's sending a message.
And the guys live there.
And the guys live there. If it's just some guy tagging,
Uh-huh.
then it doesn't matter. It's just some guy, whatever tag. I don't know.
Mhm.
But so we need to understand, and street artists need to understand that street art is not permanent.
I think most of them do understand that.
Okay, then the people who view street art as graffiti need to understand that it's not permanent. And it doesn't need to be graffiti blasted, because eventually somebody else is going to come and they're going to put their street art over it. And I guess the next thing would be, are street artists okay with other street artists coming along and either adding to or covering up their street art?
So to answer to that question,
Or, I have a compound question here.
go for it.
Does it fucking matter, because there's more than enough space to go around for everybody to fucking draw shit?
There's not enough safe space. That's the thing.
Safe space deemed safe by
your visual exposure. So if you're doing illegal street art and you're new at it, you're going to want to find some place where you can hide and do your street art, and maybe somebody will see it. It's not until you really grow
I could go downstairs into your back alley and I could street art something.
somebody's property, and that's against the rules of graffiti artists.
But you could come to my garage.
Can I?
Graffiti artists, you'll never find tagging or graffiti artists on people's private property.
So then if we do see that, then that is some sort of...
They're new. They're kids. They're not invested into the lifestyle yet.
Okay. Or it's gangs.
Well, there's a big difference there, because we're talking tagging and graffiti as opposed to gang writing. Gang writing is about creating your territory between point A, B, C, and D.
I feel like that I'm the 60-year-old
and I'm explaining the
suburban dweller here.
So you sent us or showed us one of your latest drawings a few weeks back, and we were discussing the
cultural significance.
The resolution of it. If we were looking at it on a 4K versus an LED versus how the depth of color and so forth.
Okay.
You want to come and practice on my garage door? Come on by.
Okay.
It's a solid wood garage door. Come on by. Do it as many times as you want.
But you do realize that if more people were open to, like you are, of creating these spaces for young people to come by and practice their art, their graffiti street art, on a surface that is permission, that the city we'd have more beautiful garage doors. We'd have more beautiful walls if people were willing to say, yes, come paint this. Come paint something on this.
And the thing is, it's paint. Here's the
Exactly.
thing. You fuck up.
You paint
So
over
you
it.
paint
It's
over
not
it.
the end of the world.
Come on by.
I think the problem is that there's always some sort of...
I shouldn't have bought that safety yellow in those stencils, though.
So I think a lot of the problem with street art that people don't understand is that I think they think there's some sort of implicit political message.
Well, for most of the white kids doing it in the Wicker Park area, the South Side. What's the new South Side area where everybody lives? Bridgeport. Where all the white kids have moved back into Bridgeport. So Bridgeport, Wicker Park, where all the affluent, well-educated people who can't do anything with their education.
Bridgeport was always white. What are you talking about?
But I mean, it's a different class of people.
It's whiter.
It's a different class of people that live there.
It's
today.
differently white.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean they're not all political shills?
No, it's a different. So, for them, street art has a political message because they're well read and they're well educated. When they put their hand to doing art, they're doing it with some sort of idea of making a statement behind it. When you have the poor Puerto Rican kids from Humble Park going out to do street art, unless they start tagging and then they start piecing and then they get to do mural projects, it goes through an evolution. Where off with stencils, there is no evolution. You just make your stencil and you go.
So do you think that we're going to see a time when murals are going to make a big comeback, government-sponsored murals?
But
No,
but
there'll
there
be corporate
are
sponsored murals.
You go through Europe. The Danish government has allowed stencil art.
Well, of course.
They're
The Danes are...
Danes do everything perfect.
They're light years ahead of us.
Shit.
And honestly, they are.
Yeah, they have the best laws for everything.
You know, I mean, you look at this map of street art. You look at like the France, Germany, Denmark areas. Biggest clusters.
Of course, places that came out of communism and multiple, war type places. Yeah.
So you're sitting there and you're stuck by a freight train.
Yeah.
And the freight train is going so fucking slow.
Yeah.
And it's an illegal freight train carrying way more than an allotted number of cars.
Yeah.
And you're frustrated and you're about to call the Federal Transportation Authority to report the freight train.
I've never been that frustrated by a freight train.
Nor did you know you could do it. Because I never
Especially
you're limited to an amount of cars.
Go ahead, finish your story.
Put it in park and turn up the radio.
You see
You're about to open up a can of
probably
worms.
multiple things there.
You're
You
opening
see
a big can of worms.
I know I am. And that's my whole point here. I'm opening a Pandora's box very, very fucking slowly, but I'm opening it. You have the gangs tagging. You have the gang graffiti tagging, what have you.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to use right there. You have the tagging. You have the piecing. You have the stenciling.
Yes.
It's a whole collage of some form of quote-unquote art.
There's another thing in there that you're missing. So there's car writers. And
Yes.
so
box writers, I was
and
thinking,
actually, one of our listeners to the Hitchhiker's Guide to Disbelief, a friend of mine, she's heavily into it, where she travels around and she watches trains, and she's connected into the whole world of these guys, and she knows who everybody is, and she sees them on the cars. I think if we could get her on, Carol Ann, if we could get you on to talk about this some night, if you want to come down from Wisconsin, that'd be
car
great.
writers or car riders?
Writers. They put little marks that are unique. Okay, so you know the story of Kilroy, where he was writing on the bombs, Kilroy. Okay, so the same idea, but on trains.
Okay.
Box cars and coal cars and things like that. Certain writers write certain things on all these trains, and they travel around. And there's this network of guys that do it. So I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Russia, Pennsylvania, and I see the car come through, and I write next to you, who came from Syracuse, New York. That car then makes its way to Omaha, Nebraska, where the doctor sees it, and he puts his little thing next to it. That car goes back and comes back, never gets painted, never gets washed, and it comes back to us, and we've dated it, and we've, it goes around the country. So there's this big network of guys that
just like initialing it.
Exactly.
Not anything to do with like hobo marks or anything like that.
But nothing like hobo marks.
Excellent.
But hobo marks are
Thank
there.
you. So I know a true hobo. We've talked about it before. And they go to the hobo convention every year.
How the fuck are there hobos
Tell them
in
the
this
story.
world?
Tell them the story.
And there's hobo conventions.
Tell them the story about the hobos.
How far back in the story do you want to go? Charlie and I are sitting at a red light one day, and this guy approaches me.
Insert dream music.
And he goes,
here.
"Hey, Doc, long time no see." I go, "What's going on? I haven't seen you in a while." He starts telling me how he was in this other state. He is a hobo. That's all him and his girlfriend have done for the last 10 years. And he was very excited because he was going to the hobo convention. There's a hobo convention every year in Britt, Iowa in August. And all the hobos meet and they go down to the hobo convention.
There's a run on kerchiefs and there's no sticks available.
And Charlie just puts her hand on her face and just starts shaking her head and goes, "What the fuck am I doing in a car with you?" But my point is, do car writers go to the hobo conventions?
They probably do. I would imagine that there's all kinds of people who go to the hobo convention. Nobody in this room.
Do you want to take a ride to the hobo convention this year?
You mean, do you want to stream the Hobo Convention like a live Google Hangout stream? This year from the Hobo Convention, the
just record
Hitchhiker's
it.
Guide to
It could be a
Disbelieve.
good thing for Jack Russell Media Productions.
Not in a stream per
Our
se.
10th annual
but
live
just-
broadcast from the Hobo Convention.
It started in 1899.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
well, yeah, hobos go way back.
There's
I think Jesus was a hobo.
Jesus?
He was the first. He was the first hobo. Yeshua.
wow. Hobo conventions.
I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Till next time.